it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Maynard, a fourth-generation residential broker with Hobbs & Realtors. Inventory is still a record low in Memphis, and the demand for more supply is continuing to spread across the Mid-South. Rates are starting to stabilize, which means the number of buyers is picking up daily. If you are interested in taking advantage of today's market, please give me
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on this Thursday morning. I always love it when these jackwagons decide to do an update on the computer and don't give you any advance warning. I will be looking for them. I will find you. I got your name. I got your number. I will find you. God bless America. We're about 5 minutes behind. Apologize for the delay. Man, we got a great show in store for today. Dudley Dawson's with us, hogville.net. Looking forward to hearing about what's going on up there on the hill in Fayetteville with the Razorbacks. Gary Harris checks in with us in the second segment. Tuscaloosa Tide 100.9 WVUA TV, Channel 23. Second hour, AD Angle, Coach Matt Dean, Rhodes College over in Memphis. John Hartwell, AD, ULM, the Sun Belt. We'll talk a lot about the business side of college athletics, what's going on, conference expansion. Hadn't heard anything happening this morning, but what is happening is a pretty interesting debate with one of my text threads about, where Marcus Dupree, Herschel Walker, Bo Jackson, in that era, you had three great running backs. Marcus went to Oklahoma. Herschel played at Georgia, obviously. Bo at Auburn. Can you imagine? And the debate is, if Bo Jackson would have run out of the power I, out of the I formation for 4 years, he would have broken every record in history. Good point. He ran out of the wishbone the first three. In 1 year, he ran out of the I. That's an interesting debate. Hey, we're here 6 days a week, 25 shows a month. Follow us on Twitter at Sidelines_live. Free speech is alive and well. The First Amendment. That's what we are all about. We don't hold back. We're not afraid to voice an opinion. We don't like conference expansion. We'll tell you. Dudley Dawson, hogville.net. All right, we're getting an echo. Okay. The echo's gone away. Well, Dudley, go ahead and
Hello,
yeah,
can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
All right.
All right, we'll work on that echo. Let's talk some Razorback practice.
Well, the 11 practices in, they feel pretty good about where they're at. Obviously, the season, head football coaches are a bunch that they would always love more time to get things ready, but at the same time, they also don't want to wear your team out going into this season. I will say that this has been fantastic weather for this football team. I don't know how it's shaped. College teams are going to be around the country because of these last couple of weeks and really good weather and all that, but they are being able to get a lot done and looking forward to the opener with Western Carolina in Little Rock on September 2nd.
Well, the first we're working on that echo. Keep Dudley.
Yes, yeah. I was saying, looking forward to the opener, Western Carolina, September 2nd. something that everybody starts the season with great dreams and aspirations. You can quickly get hit in the mouth in that first quarter and things change around, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. We're going to work through this. We're going to take a quick break and be right back. All right, we are back. Dudley Dawson with this hogville.net, having some technical difficulties. I tell you one thing. You have to wonder when you have technical difficulties, what the problem is. We don't know, but we're working through it. And just reminds me of the old days whenever you had technical difficulties, how you worked through it. It was pretty funny. There'd always be somebody would pop up on there and just say, we're experiencing technical difficulty. Well, does this remind you of where we are, Dudley?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by. Regularly scheduled program momentarily. Please stay tuned.
All right, Dudley Dawson. Let's bring Dudley. You remember that old deal when we had 4 TV channels and that organ music would be playing? And let's give this another whirl. Sometimes aliens, the stars just get out of line. But Dudley, you're talking about the nice weather that we're having, and you're right. It was 77 degrees over here in Parkin yesterday for the high. Normally, it's so hot when you get out of your car, you can't breathe around here. I don't know how this has happened, but we're not out of the woods yet. It's going to be hot. It'll be scorching hot in October over here.
Yeah, and it'll always come back to get you, and they may be enjoying it out there on the football practice fields right now, but there's going to be a run really quick, and they'll get them in shape some way. Also, one of the interesting things here in Arkansas, they've got that indoor practice facility that they've had for a long time. It just got air conditioning. For the longest time, it hasn't had any air conditioning, and they put it in the system, right about the time it was 80 outside. So, making it with air-conditioned helmets, air-conditioned workout areas, and cool weather. What are these guys complaining about now, if anything?
Well, they've lost, they've given up, they've forfeited their rights to complain, Dudley. And they really have. Watching, listening to Sam Pittman, he's loose. He's got to be a lot of fun to play for, but he works your ass off. I mean, that's the best chemistry to have. Let's get started now. Where's the offensive line? Are they where you think they should be, where the coaches think they should be? Because, again, you go back to the 3 games last year at Mississippi State, at home against LSU, and at home against Liberty. If KJ's 100%, they win, I think, 2 of those 3 games. LSU went down to a 13-10. That's how good this guy is.
Yeah, and you're talking about the offensive line. Certainly, there's a couple of holdovers in Bo Limmer and Brady Latham that are back. But your guy you mentioned all the time, Patrick Kudus, right now looks like he's going to start at right tackle. They feel really good. Everybody goes into, I should say, most offensive linemen go in looking for 7 guys. 5 guys that can start, 2 that can swing all over the place. They're really having a trouble narrowing it down to those 7 if that's what they're going to do this year, because they've had so many guys that have stepped up. They brought in some portal guys. Josh Browne, from Florida is one of them. Cody Kennedy feels real good about what he's got in the offensive line. I've been praising that, because I thought that while you lost a bunch of experience, you've got a lot of size, you've got a lot of athleticism. You've got a lot of guys who I think ceilings are higher. I think these guys have the opportunity to be drafted much higher at the end of their careers than the overall offensive lineman did, in this last group. But they seem really happy about it. What we've been able to see at practice, I defer on that a little bit after all these years. So you can go out there and say, man, those guys look good. And you realize they're going up against themselves. But I do think that one of the things that has helped them a lot is the depth and talent that they've added to the defensive line that they're having to go up against in practice.
Yeah. Well, is bigger better in this kind of offense for Dan Enos? Because I know at Alabama he had some big physical offensive linemen, and it worked for them.
What I would say is that Sam Pittman's always been a north-south guy. Now, he'll let you run east and west every once in a while, but he's always been a north-south guy, and these guys should be able to do that. But you also should have some flexibility and versatility in that offensive line and be able to get out on the corners and do some things, get into that second level and do some things. Again, I'm not saying they're going to be the greatest offensive line ever or even a great offensive line this year, but I do see the potential there. And there have been years when I've gone into this in the 40 years I've covered football that I thought that maybe my offensive line in Newport might have been a little bit better.
Yeah, and I remember when Arkansas first came to the SEC in '92, they were playing in Memphis against the Tigers at the Liberty Bowl. And I looked at their offensive line, and I just remember, man, they're skinny. They just, and then Danny Ford started to recruit those kind of players. And I think he went to Frank Broyles after the 97 season and said, if I can have one more year, that's when we're going to turn the corner. He didn't get it. Houston Nutt came in there and had a hell of a 10-year run. But Arkansas now, obviously 31 years in, they're completely SEC. Everything about them is Dan Enos. If he's going to change anything, what's the biggest change he needs to change for Arkansas? I mean, they lost the close ones last year, won the close ones the year before. I think the sleeper, I saw it yesterday, pick outside of Alabama or LSU would be Arkansas. And what if Arkansas splits Alabama and LSU? I mean, I think that Arkansas is a steal to pick them to win, if people are picking them to win 7 or 8 games, because of Dan Enos alone. What
I would say about Dan Enos, though, is it's clear that he's going back to having 2 tight ends. They went from a tight end room that did not have a lot of depth, a lot of experience, a lot of talent, to be honest, to one that has at least 5, maybe 6 guys they're going to play. They're going to use 2 tight ends a lot. They're going to use them in a lot of different situations. You hear kids all the time, players over there, oh, we're excited about the offense. But you can see them there's actually joy over there in what they're running. They feel good about it. You still got to execute when it comes to game time, and it's much easier to execute in practice than it is against, an SEC defense at full speed and all that. But the football team, the offense, seems very excited about the return of Enos, the return of two tight ends, the return of what is being called a pro-style offense that has, old school mentality.
Yeah. Defensively, when you look at it, Barry Odom, the first year in the second game of the Mike Leach era, Arkansas goes on the road to Starkville and wins 21-14. And then, again, you thought Barry Odom had cracked the code. But offensive coordinators, like defensive coordinators, they're constantly evolving. What is it with the defense that has to change other than the secondary play? And I don't know how it can't get better, Dudley, with the way you describe the progress and the development on their defensive line for Arkansas. That's where I'm coming from. I'm going, why are people not picking Arkansas higher?
I think, and we go back to this all the time, these 40 new guys. I don't think that everybody, and these guys are going to have to go out and execute, but I don't think enough people know about what Arkansas did in the transfer portal. They really had some success in the transfer portal. Marcus Woodson and Travis Williams obviously did a great job, along with the rest of the coaches, by bringing in talent. They overhauled the defensive line. They're late in the season, as you mentioned, against Liberty and some other teams. Arkansas was not able to hold its line of scrimmage on either side of the ball. They were giving up too many, passes that were turning from short gains into long, big plays. I think that they've addressed each of the levels, and they feel like with Chris Paul at linebacker and Jordan Crook and some other guys that they have an opportunity at each one of these three levels to be better than they were last year, and they have to do that. But the biggest thing, I think, is the mentality. Again, I like to praise Coach Odom. I thought he did a great job when he was here. Hope he does a great job at UNLV, and we know he did a great job when he was in Missouri. But the aggressiveness became it kind of went away. All of a sudden, you're playing a 4-2-5, a 3-2-6 back there. Things that you're not used to seeing because they were trying to keep things from happening once the play had started. This mentality, to me, looks like you're trying to set the aggression tone at the line of scrimmage, that you don't want to let them get the opportunity to get big plays, but you can do that two ways. You can either play it safe or you can come after them. And, it appears that this mentality of this defensive staff is in a situation where that's what they're going to do. We'll see how it plays itself out. You can make big plays in the backfield. You can give up big plays, on consecutive plays. But that is the mentality, and I think that a lot of people around here, especially fans, are looking forward to a more aggressive unit. Yes, if you give up a big play, and you're going to do that in the SEC, that's fine. But go get the quarterback every once in a while. Go get the running back in the backfield. Blow up a play before it gets started. Yeah, and I think, and I mentioned this to you earlier, just Travis Williams and Marcus Woodson coaching under Kevin Steele as defensive coordinator. I mean, Kevin Steele, you are their adversity. Don't wait for it to happen to you. Take it to them. That's what I think you're going to see. And just like I think that when people talk about Kevin Steele, look everywhere he's been, he will have success at Alabama. But I think Marcus Woodson, Travis Williams will bring a lot with them that they've learned. I really think people are, and I'm not saying that because you're on here. I'm just going to say what I think. But you win the close ones, then you lose the close ones, and you bring in Dan Enos. Please tell me how that's not a huge, huge game changer. And I like you talk so much about the first 44, but then, and again, you're like my friend Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers. You don't, but yeah, both of y'all are. And neither one of y'all will budge. I can't get y'all to say something just to say, and I don't try to do that, but sometimes people will just say something really positive just to say it. But you talked about 1 through 44. Then you talk about getting 45 to 85 better. You got 40 new guys. Let's rewind to a year ago at this time. How much better is Arkansas? I'll go to saying that I think the ceiling is certainly higher than it was last year. You did not have enough depth in the secondary. You did not have enough depth in linebackers, and you didn't have the depth and the talent that you needed to have on the defensive line. Being 0-3 in those categories, is not good for a college football defense, especially one that plays in the SEC. I think that the mentality needed to change. There is an excitement that's come with it. You can see that with the players during spring practice. You can see it during what we call fall practice now, even though you don't really get to fall until you're a couple of games into the season. I think the excitement is back over there. And yes, it's about winning football games all the time, but it will always be about having Jimmys and Joes. Yeah, there's a lot of people that can overcome not having talent. Well, I should say there's very few coaches. Only the great ones can overcome not having talent. You become a much better coach when you have much better players, and that's just the way it is. You can yell about 5 stars, 3 stars. What I would tell you is that Arkansas has consistently been a 3-star recruiting school, and now it is becoming more of a 4-star recruiting school, and that's important when you play in the SEC. There's far more 4-stars in the recruiting class of 2024 than there has been in recent years. And again, we'll see how that plays itself out if it translates into success. But at least you have the opportunity to have a better player at that position, and he's backed up by a better player, and that player's backed up by a better player. That's that continuous thing as we talk about from going from 1 to 44 to 1 to 85.
Yeah. And sad news about Alex Collins. God bless.
Enough over here already.
You're in my prayers at Arkansas. Ryan Mallett and Charles Ballantyne, your best friend, recently passed away. And you think about Alex Collins. I mean, everybody remembers the play against Ole Miss. He came up from Miami. That was a big time get for Brett Bielema. He had he rushed for 3,700 yards. God,
that was one of the biggest or strangest recruiting scenarios that I've followed over these years because he wanted to come up here. His mom didn't. She ran off with the national letter of intent, and everybody was worried that that wasn't going to be able to make itself happen. But everybody got into a room and on a phone call and he came up here. And the one thing I would say about him, he was a great football player. Obviously went on to play in the NFL, was finishing his career, at this point with the Memphis Showboats and of the XFL. But I would tell you that kid, every room he walked into, he made that room better. He had that smile that was infectious. He, because of his desire to river dance, developed a mentality where he would go see kids that are doing things that maybe were not considered the norm back then, or maybe and he would he'd continue to do this to the NFL. He would go see kids and encourage them to be who they were, what they wanted to be, instead of fitting into a box. And I think that was something that I'll remember most about it. Yes, the Henry Heave and everything that goes into that is all the yards that he racked up, but that kid made a difference in his 28 years here on this earth.
Yeah, and you're right. And you get to know these players. That's what's so great about you and the writers like Otis Kirk, who we had on the show one time when you were out last year. That was the only time we've had him on, but damn, he knows the Hogs. And y'all, you're what separates you from a lot of writers is you're brutally honest. But I agree with you. I keep seeing the Razorbacks in these top 5, top 6s of these top recruits in the South, and over, there's 2 schools. Like, let's say Auburn and Alabama and Georgia are fighting on some kid in that area, just out of geography. Then it's Florida State and it's Arkansas. You're seeing them all over the place. Scott Fountain, Marcus Woodson, Travis Williams, Sam Pittman. When he was at Georgia, he was the closer. I mean, he was the fixer, like the wolf in Pulp Fiction. If he went to get a lineman, an offensive lineman, it was over. And I got a lot of people texting me right now, the family, all the Saxons and the Kuduses in Memphis. You got a lot of Hog fans over there. A lot of people at Christian Brothers High School that are doing backflips about Patrick Kudus, because they're so fired up to have a starter on a Razorback team that I think is pretty damn good. But another one for you. I remember fall break with my kids, September 24th, 2005, up in Hardy on the Spring River at the River Cabin with Boyd and everybody. Everybody's up at the falls, at the Tarzan Falls, and I go back to get some cold road sodas and some snacks for we had 5 kids with us, and I'm watching the Arkansas Alabama game, and there's this guy from Little Rock, number 5, and he peels off a big run. Arkansas didn't win that day. I think they lost 24-13, and I went back up to the falls. Boyd's an Alabama grad. I'm Auburn, and I said, I have just seen the greatest running back since Herschel and Bo and Marcus Dupree. And he said, who? I said, this guy's name is Darren McFadden. And I've gotten to know Tim Horton very well over the years. We text a lot. He's out at Air Force now. He calls it the submarine. And I said, man, that's an awesome job recruiting Darren McFadden. And he looked at me and he goes, Rob, I went to see him, and, he's wearing Arkansas stuff, and he knew the fight song, sang it in his sleep. But that one was robbed of the Heisman Trophy in 06 and 07. But I'm going to tell you, I'm hopefully going to have Marcus Dupree on the show here in the next week. But that's he's that other guy. Would you agree? I mean, there's Marcus, there's Herschel, and Bo, and there's Darren McFadden.
Yeah, and what I would tell you about Darren is if Arkansas had won a couple more ball games and Arkansas had the publicity folks that they do in place now, that he probably would have won it. Because if you look from the right angles, being objective about things, that he had the best season. But Florida was a better team. Arkansas needed to win a few more games. But Houston Nutt's declaration was true that day there after they beat LSU. You better take a look at him, and not enough for doing that, because the Tebow publicity machine is in full motion. I liked him, Tebow.
I did.
He gets a lot of grief in this state because he got the Heisman instead of Derek, but it wasn't him. It was it was a very crafted media thing that went together in that. Doubling back a little bit, I appreciate the kind of words you say about me, that, in terms of saying what I feel. I'm far too old these days to be worried about whether somebody likes me, to be worried about whether, if they're going to take my credentials away and all that stuff. I hear people worried about that all the time. If they do, well, I'll find something else to do. But what I will say is that, I can be brutally honest. It's one of my best characteristics. It's also one of my biggest weaknesses, but I just don't see the reason in, just egging people along. Everybody wants me to say they're going to win eight or more games this year. And I say, well, I can tell you that. And then it'll come back to haunt me, if they don't do that. What I would tell you, I keep pumping this 40 different people. I go out and see practice. They're playing against each other. If I'm going to make an informed decision, I need a little bit more body of work. I'm not just going to sit around here and say everything's sunshine and rainbows. I will say that I like the way the team looks better physically. I like the mentality of the coaches that they have in place. So there's certainly an opportunity for them to be as successful as they want to be, but I'm not ready just to jump on board to be like that. I quit worrying about being liked a long time ago.
Yeah, it's like if a client asks me, hey, we want to buy this. If it's not right, I'll say, look, I get paid, but it's not right for you. If 1 and 1 don't equal 3, it ain't a good business deal. Dudley, hang on with us if you can, hogville.net. Always love having you on. One of the good people like Gary Harris, because we're all the same age. You know what I found out about Gary Harris? He and Rodney Orwell, we love the game. We appreciate the traditions and the relationships that you build with the fan bases of all these other schools. That's what makes it so much fun. I can't imagine being in a conference where you didn't go to work with the people that you played all the time. That would be tough. In Memphis, man, on that trading floor over the years, Holy cow. It's like it's the SEC United Nations. Gary Harris, Tide 100.9 WVUA, Channel 23 in Tuscaloosa on the WeatherTech Cup phone on his way to work there in Tuscaloosa. You on McFarland Boulevard?
I'm not. I'm actually on Lurleen Wallace, coming over the bridge, White Warrior River from Northport into Tuscaloosa. So
I got you. Hey man, let's talk some Alabama football. I know y'all get full access to practice, and you were over at Coach Saban's house for dinner last night and all that. That's the way it is nowadays, isn't it?
Well, I heard Dudley talking about not making too much of an evaluation after just watching them practice against each other. Well, I really can't make an evaluation because we don't get to watch practice. So I don't even have that to go on other than the one, open practice that they had. So, I know we go by really what I am told and, what we hear from the players and Coach Saban himself and, try to, make some type of evaluation based on that. I know everybody wants to know about the quarterback. Everything I'm hearing, Rob, is at this point, I would be very surprised if anyone other than Jalen Milroe starts the game against Middle Tennessee. I mean, that's my prediction. Based on people I've talked to, he is the guy. I get the vibe that while the team has not been told that the players feel it, and talking to some practice observers, Milroe kind of leads the way. He's kind of first up in the drills and just kind of has taken on that leadership role. So I think he's going to be the guy. And at least to start the season, I have a lot of Alabama fans tell me on my radio show and on Tider Insider TV as well. Well, he'll start, but he won't finish, or he'll be replaced in Texas. And you get the impression that some of them are actually hoping for that, which I don't get. I tell them if you're an Alabama fan and he's named the starter and he's having to be replaced, you realize that's not a good thing, right? You realize if he can't hold on to the job, that's not good for Alabama, because that would say that he's not playing well. And for instance, let's say you get through the Middle Tennessee game and you play Texas and, he fumbles the ball on his 22-yard line and they score a touchdown. Then the fourth possession of the game, he throws an out route and gets pick-sixed and you're down 14-0 and you're having to make a quarterback change. That's probably not going to bode well in that game, and you might lose that game. And all of a sudden you're hung with an early L. So if he's named the starter, or whichever quarterback is named the starter, the best case scenario obviously is that player play well and, grab the bull by the horns, as Saban likes to say, and goes out and leads his team and plays well and doesn't turn the ball over. And the offense, runs the way it's designed to run. And you get off to a good start in the season, because if you're starting one quarterback and have an eye on, well, we're probably going to have to replace this guy, that's not a formula for success usually.
Gary, you've been doing this long enough that you know full well that the best quarterback on campus is the backup quarterback.
Always.
Always.
It doesn't matter, always. That never changes. So it's clearly going to be the case here. Regardless of which one of these guys starts, there's going to be a large, number of fans that want to see the backup or the third quarterback. And, I've even heard a lot of the fans sounding off that they're hearing Dylan Lonergan, the true freshman, has looked the best. So, anyway, it's been a good old fashioned quarterback competition here. The last couple of years with Bryce Young, you haven't really had to deal with that, but it's back, and it is.
Rob, here in Arkansas, Malik Hornsby was going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, even while KJ Jefferson was locked into the starting role. I saw an ad yesterday. He's now at Texas State. They said he had the arm of Aaron Rodgers, the mentality of Tom Brady, the speed of Jalen Hurts. And I was like, man, I must have missed on that one.
Look out for the Bobcats. Look out for the Bobcats. They're coming.
And I wish the young man well, but boy, that's stepping out there.
I mean, you can't. You're right. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, the backup quarterback. No, never mind that the coaches are out there every day evaluating them in practice. And don't forget, their jobs and their livelihoods depend on winning games. So far be it from them to put the best guy out there. It is unbelievable. Let me say real quick about one of our sponsors, RumbleBoxingGym.com. They're open every day of the week, 1835 Union Avenue, Midtown Memphis, right on the corner of Union and McLean. and Camp Lee. This is the first of 3 gyms she's going to open in the Memphis area. Go to our website, www.sidelines.live. Check out Rumble Boxing on there. You can click on there, join. They have discount rates for students, group rates, team building, 48 people in those classes, dumbbells, star jacks. You got burpees, planks, push-ups, you name it, physical exercise. Then you're hitting these 250-pound punching bags hanging from the ceiling. Punch, punch, hook, hook, jab, jab. It is awesome. 45 minutes of the most intense training you're going to get. Rumble Boxing Gym in Midtown Memphis. Gary, looking at Alabama, and you and Rodney have been talking a lot about Jalen Milroe. He's 6'2", 6'3". Talk about his speed. What's his greatest asset?
Well, he's just a physical specimen. I think I said on your show last week that, when he walks into a room, you think he's a linebacker or, a tight end or something like that. And, Dudley deals with a big physical quarterback there at Arkansas. So you know what I'm talking about. Just very physically imposing and streamlined. I mean, he's got the physique. I mean, he doesn't, there's not a lot of body fat on this guy. So the first thing you're dealing with is a fine-tuned athlete, big, strong, fast. Arkansas got an up-close look at him last year, when it was 28-23 there after Arkansas had come back, and it's 3rd and 10 or whatever it is. And, the pass, the coverage is there, and he just pulls it down and, and takes off. And he can do that. I thought in the Texas A&M game, his one start last year, I thought he was a big play guy for both teams. He made some really big plays for Alabama in that game. I mean, he made some pinpoint throws. He used his legs, and then he turned it over. And he made big plays for Texas A&M. And as a result, that game went right down to the wire. The key for him is going to be, I think anybody that follows Alabama football will tell you this: if he's the quarterback, don't turn the ball over, because I think the feeling is that he's overprone based on the short amount of work that he had last year. And if you've got a propensity to turn the ball over, you are going to be replaced, at some point. Nick Saban's not going to put up with that. So his strengths are his athleticism. I think he's got a really strong arm. Clearly the accuracy based on what we saw last year is something that you hope that he's improved on, but he made some throws. He made some throws in the Arkansas game. He made some throws in the A&M game. He made some throws in the spring, but he made some poor throws too. And, so that's going to be the key for him. But, he is a guy that, like a Jalen Hurts, when he uses his legs now, I'm telling you what, you better get him on the ground quick, because if he gets in the open field, he's going to rip them off against you. So he brings that athleticism, that size, that speed. The question is, can he throw it well enough and consistently enough to make the defense respect the pass? And, I think you're going to see, regardless of the quarterback, a different kind of passing game from Alabama than what we've seen in the past. With Bryce Young, Matt Jones, Tua, even Jalen, they threw it over the top. They threw the ball down the field. What I'm told in practice, they're working on, catch and run type stuff. That's why it's so important these receivers catch the football, because, they're going to be a lot of shorter routes. They're going to run the ball and throw it short. And then if the defense has to commit to coming up there on the line of scrimmage, then I think they'll take some shots over the top and try to take the lid off. But I think initially it's going to be a short control passing game. So you really have to be accurate there because, you throw a slant and, it's behind the guy and it's picked off. You throw an quick out and the timing's off, or even a hitch for that matter. And, for those passes to work the way they're designed to work, not only do you have to be, hit your receiver, but you got to hit him in stride and hit him on time so he can run with the ball after he catches it. Because if you throw a 4 or 5 yard route, you need the guy to catch the ball and get some yards after the catch. So he's a tremendous athlete. Will he master the nuances of playing quarterback? We'll see. If he does, he's going to be really good.
And I think one of the things you make a real good point. I think one of the things his success is going to be, in large part, if the receivers are where they're supposed to be. So many times, especially with a young quarterback, if the receiver's not where they're supposed to be, you have a quick panic and all that. If the receivers run the routes they're supposed to, where they're supposed to be. I mean, we talk about KJ. KJ has very few interceptions. About half of those interceptions, or those few, are because the receiver wasn't in the place he was supposed to be, where KJ knew he was supposed to be, but the receiver did. So I think that's a big key in this, especially with a young quarterback, that he gets help from his teammates.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think it's going to be critical. That the receivers, like you said, they're where they're supposed to be. The routes on time. They catch the ball, because drops, I'm told, have been a problem this spring. They do something with it after they catch it. The offensive line's got to protect. And the run game has to be there. And I know they feel really good about their stable of running backs. But as we all know, all three of us, when you can run the football, it opens up everything. That's a quarterback's best friend. So it's going to be a different style of offense for Alabama. It's funny. A few years ago, we were saying that when they opened up the passing game, because everybody was used to ball control and real physical style of offense. And we said it's going to be a different style of offense when Kiffin came in. They transitioned, and it worked. So now they're kind of going back to what Saban, I think, prefers. I mean, I tell people all the time, when he asked, is this what we want it to be? He was serious. Is this the way you want the game played? Spreading out on the sideline, and it fundamentally changed the game. He would rather, I think, run 60 plays a game and play in a phone booth and pound people and control the ball. But he's evolved, and he's done what he's had to do to stay on top. But I think now, the RPO game, the spread game, it's in football enough that if you go back to this,
Gary,
don't spread you out and aren't all over the field, and just line up and play straight ahead, smash mouth football. So I think there's going to be a combination of that with Alabama, and they hope that it's effective, because a lot of defenses now are built to play in space. Linebackers are 200, and when Saban got here, his inside linebackers were 260 pounds. Remember Orlando McClain and Dante Hightower? They were huge.
Yes.
They're like defensive tackles now. And now a lot of your defensive linemen, even your edge guys, are 230. Your inside linebackers a lot of times are 210 or 215, because they're made to play in space, and they're made to cover sideline to sideline. And if you go, like Georgia has done, if you can just line up and pound some people and throw to your tight ends, you can cause people problems in that way. And I think that's what Alabama's looking to do. Yeah,
let's do this. Let's take a quick commercial break. I'm going to come back and talk about the evolution of the players. 205, 210 from 260. That's what's happening in college football. Dudley, Dawson, Gary Harris with us right after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
We got a great one going this morning. Dudley, Dawson, Hogsville.net, Gary Harris, Tide 100.9, WVUA TV 23. That is also Tider Insider TV. He does a great show. I recommend you watch it with Rodney Orr, Tuesday nights at 6:30. It is fantastic. 22 minutes in a 30-minute show, packed with content. It's like a long sportscast versus the 4.5 minutes that they get. Gary and Dudley, both of y'all, you're making a great point about the linebackers. I heard Kevin Steele talking about, they got you spread so far. Some of these guys are almost on the sidelines, but he's evolved with the game, and you talked about the size of these edge rushes. What was Will Anderson, 236, something like that?
He got up last year. He got on up bigger to around 245, and I'm not sure that he was as effective. But yeah, as we were talking about, and Dudley can comment on it, and it's just the way the game has evolved. But, Orlando McClain and Dante Hightower, they were trucks now. Now, they were athletic, don't get me wrong. But but when you were playing, and like I said, you're playing more in a phone booth, those 255, 260-pound linebackers, man, they helped you. And you had Terrence Cody. Remember, he was battling to stay under 350. I mean, that was a challenge for him. And, and now I look, don't get me wrong, Jaheim Otis is a big guy. Those three interior defensive linemen are still going to be big, but their edge rushers, Dallas Turner is going to be, about 225. And Braswell's about in the same range, and Deontay Lawson. Now he is going to play probably at about 225 or 230, and I think the other inside linebacker in that same range. But you don't see too many of the 250-pound linebackers anymore. And that was a guy that transferred to Arkansas from Alabama, Drew Sanders, who was a bigger guy and could run. And I know Alabama hated to see him go. And obviously last year he had a big year. So, if you're big enough, if you're athletic enough and you can carry the weight, they're going to let you carry it. But you've got to be able to run. Even the inside guy, it's the two-gap guy, they don't ask you just to push the pocket anymore. They want you to get off blocks and make plays. So it's just a little different style of game.
Yeah, great point there. When football was old school, you just lined up, tried to do 3 yards of cloud of dust. You wanted your big linebackers in there, but that's not how the game's played anymore, as Gary said. The number one thing I think when you're looking at linebackers these days is, can they be at the spot in space that they need to be? And lots of people can do that. Can they get the running back down? Obviously,
get them on the ground. Yeah,
that is a big thing. And
it's huge.
If you're 250, 260. First of all, you might not be in that spot. Second of all, you might not be able to get down because he's going to juke you or whatever. So it becomes we hear it all the time in NFL, high school, college. It's a matchup thing. He's a matchup problem. You used to hear that in basketball all the time, but not in football. But now it's translated to football. Guys like it, and I'm just getting some news here that Treylon Burks, obviously the great Arkansas wide receiver, is going to be out a few weeks after LCL injury in practice.
The Titans can't catch a break with a receiver now.
Looks like 3 or 4 weeks, but he was a guy that a lot of people could get to him. He wasn't a burner, but you couldn't get him down, and so it becomes a big context with linebackers these days, who are really more. They switch back and forth between safety and linebacker these days more than anything. But you got to get there. You got to get them down. If you don't do those two things, then you're not going to play.
Yeah, I think even Saban has changed his sounding off as far as he used to talk about affecting the quarterback. It's not necessarily about getting sacks. And most of those, he was right, because those quarterbacks couldn't. But nowadays, if you don't get the guy on the ground, they'll throw the ball with people draped all over them, or as Dudley alluded to, they'll break away from a tackle and they're off and running. The same thing with these wide receivers and running backs. And it's like Gene Stallings used to say, and this part of the game is still true. Defensive football is 3 things: sight, movement, and contact. You got to see the play, you got to diagnose it, you got to get to the play, and then when you get there, you got to hit somebody, get them on the ground. And it's a 3-tiered thing. If you mess up any of these, your eyes are in the wrong place, or you don't get to where you're supposed to be, or thirdly, if you get there and you can't make the tackle, it's botched. So that's still what it's all about. But Dudley, you're right. I mean, we've seen it happen a lot in the recent years where it looks like the play's diagnosed correctly and you just don't get the guy on the ground. And whether it's a corner that can't get a wide receiver down, or a edge rusher that can't get a quarterback down, or an inside linebacker gets trucked by the running back, you do everything right and you don't tackle the guy and he's off and going. It's hard, like Kevin Steele said at the media day here. It's hard playing defensive football in 2023.
Yeah, and these plays, if the quarterback's going to take 1 or 2 steps back, or not even take a step back hardly before he throws the ball out there to a little quick thing, you're not going to get him anyway. So.
Well, y'all are both right in that the most underrated player, who's maybe the most important player on any defense, is your middle linebacker that's calling in the defensive signals. Think about Alabama in 2019 when Dylan Moses was out, that guy from Baton Rouge Laboratory High School, I think. That was a significant deal. But people, I want y'all to talk about that. The guy that's signaling, gets the signals from the sidelines, because he's got to line everybody up. Just like when everybody always looks at the center on the offensive line, he'll raise his hand and point ahead. What's he doing? We got somebody just questioned and said, Explain first, Dudley and Gary, about the middle linebacker and the signals.
Well, it's so important that, Henry To'otos did it the last couple of years here, and he's gone. So all of a sudden, that's a big part. Yeah, we got to find the signal caller. It's probably going to be Deontay Lawson, who, started a lot last year and is a really talented linebacker, but he has not had that responsibility. And now it's going to be handed to him, and it is crucial. It is like a center setting up the offensive line, block calls. And so if you miss it and you don't get it right, then all the things that Dudley and I are talking about, defensive football, if you don't get on the same page, then you're going to have a bust. And so it's critical. And that guy not only has the responsibility of being a good football player, but, and I'll let Dudley speak to this, but also, getting that defense. And, you used to have a guy in the secondary that's going to help make the calls too back there. It's kind of two-tiered now. But still, whoever is, are your signal callers on defense, before the plays even run, they've got to get it right. Or, we've seen it before, all the things about good defensive football players. If you bust and you're not where you're supposed to be, it doesn't matter. The offense is going to have success.
Yeah. Dudley, Gary.
We talk about quarterbacks on offense and them making the read before the play or the read right after the play starts. It's as important for the quarterback on defense, which is that, middle linebacker or whoever's making the calls. He's got to have his guys. And the fact that you're allowed to substitute on offense, they let you substitute on defense to they give you time to do that helps. But you've got so many guys coming in and out these days on defense that it's very easy for one person to be, not in the right spot or not, remembering the right responsibility, and the other team's ending up in the end zone. I have great respect not only for the signal callers on offense, but those who are on defense that so many times they make adjustments, not the coaches. The coaches taught them to do this, but they make adjustments out there on the field that kept a play from being a touchdown, and the fans, even the ones that are very knowledgeable, don't see it. It might have been something a little, just like moving a defensive lineman over a step.
Yeah.
Hey, great. Good to see you guys. I got to run.
Hey, tell them how they can follow you, though.
Yeah, Gary Harris _WVUA on Twitter, WVUA23.com, Tide109.com, and I've got a Gary Harris WVUA23 Facebook page. All you have to do is just go to Facebook, type in Gary Harris WVUA23, and follow me there. Thanks a lot, guys.
The King of Claiborne County, thank you so much. I'll tell you what, the signal caller, you're right. And people, and we're going to talk about the offense. Let me say something again real quick. The first ever St. Paul Open, Chickasaw Country Club, Memphis, October 2nd, with a dinner the night before. Going to benefit the Peter J. Sarton Scholarship Fund. Call Michael Jordan, 901-647-3014. The teams are all sold out, but you know what? Call and say, hey, what can you do? If someone drops out, get on the waiting list. They still have opportunities to sponsor the flags and the holes. They need money for the scholarship fund, volunteers, items donated in lieu of cash. That is the first ever St. Paul Open, October 2nd, Chickasaw Country Club in Memphis. Also, Hewlett and Dunn, breaking news here, folks. New brands coming in every day now. Pendleton, Schaefer Outdoors, Danner, Vask, light boots and higher boots. Audrey and I were out there last week. Dudley, this is one of the coolest stores. It's like those places you see out in Jackson or Moose, Wyoming or something. It's kind of Yellowstone in Collierville, Tennessee. Hewlett and Dunn, the owner, Charles Hall, and Audrey and I, they got a tap in there. They got a couple of beers, and there's a great Irish beer. We were having a couple of pops with Charles last week, and we were in the boot room, over 7,000 pairs of boots, and we're in there, and we're listening to Oliver Anthony, the blue collar national anthem, about rich men north of Richmond, and he pulled up about a dozen of this guy's songs. I'm like, this guy's really talented. Not that I'm, some talent. I'm not, Clive Davis or whatever. Certainly not. But he goes,
nice reference by you, though. Nice reference.
That's right. Clive Davis. It sounds like a vegetable. But anyway, he said, I want to start doing music like Thursday or Friday nights live from the boot room. Get some people in there unplugged. And Dudley, you being a historian and one of the best guys we have on this show in terms of just knowing your craft, but also high character individual. What was the death of more rock groups than anything else. Was it MTV Unplugged exposing them? I mean, I think it was. It was the death of a lot of bands.
There was a lot of people that thought everything that going on was live,
Yes.
And poor Milli Vanilli became the band that really got the thing started. When they're and so many times we got to see that the people out front were not really the talent. Again with Milli Vanilli and others that. There was somebody back there singing and they were piping it in. They weren't the cosmetic ones that the producers and the companies wanted to put ahead of time. But that was interesting. The 70s were a great decade. My favorite decade of all time. But I'm learning a lot about that decade that I didn't know about when it was happening.
Yeah. Hey, we're I cannot help but like John Hartwell, AD at ULM. It's Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, proud native of Balch, which is a suburb of Newport, Arkansas. And someone sent me this yesterday, and I was laughing so hard I almost blew my appendix out. But it was Phil Hartman when he did the Sinatra group with Luther Campbell, Steve Lawrence, and Edie Gourmet, Sinead O'Connor, and Billy Idol. And every time Frank Sinatra would say something, he called her Sinead, Sinead. He goes, and finally he goes, your thoughts. All right, let's go. Let's start with you, Uncle Fester. Just Sinead O'Connor.
I remember that.
I mean, and Luther Campbell's talking. He goes, can't understand a word you're saying. Steve and Edie. Oh, everything you say, Frank. He goes, yo guys, you're just kissing my head. I mean, you got to love good writing, great writing, and comedy. Hey,
Joe Piscopo was in that, wasn't he? I think too.
I don't think he was. I don't think he was on that one. But I mean, that not on that. Maybe he was somebody. The guy that played Billy Idol was so good. I keep thinking it was Billy Idol. I don't know who it was, but Billy Idol. Those guys. Phil Hartman was one of the greatest ever. That's when Saturday Night Live was funny because they tore into everybody. Dudley, once again, I know you got to step out. You got a big day ahead of you. Let people know again how they can follow you. And as always, thank you so much for your time that you share with us every week. It means the world to us. Like I said, a lot of my friends, they go, I'm not a Hog fan, but damn, I'll pull for him because I love Dudley. He just tells it like it is. And that's what we love about this show. So tell them again, because I want more people to subscribe to hogville.net.
I appreciate that. Hogville.net is our website. We're real proud of it. Cover all Arkansas sports and really at it right now. August is I think August is my least favorite month because there's practice and leading up to it, and we finally get to the games. But also fearlessfriday.com. Put a lot of stories up there. On high school football teams as they get ready. August 25th opens the season here. Should be very exciting. And then obviously September 2nd with the college football, with Arkansas coming aboard. But and then also there for a minute, I was getting excited about the Cardinals when they got 8.5 out of the wild card, but lost last night. So plenty of stuff on my likes professionally on Dead Sports, which is my Twitter handle.
Hey, look, we're going to be up on the Spring River this weekend with the Alabama gang trout fishing in Rockbridge, Missouri. They will definitely be calling the hogs when DJ Supermoon comes down the river. And if you don't know about DJ Supermoon, it's about 1,000 people in a long flotilla on the Spring River with lots of dancing and drinking and loud music. And they'll start calling the hogs about 1 o'clock. It gets crazy up there.
You tell Briscoe, Darling, and the rest of the guys that I said, hey.
I will. Have a great one, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net. Love it. We're going to bring in the coach, Matt Dean from the Quad Cities. And if you don't know the Quad Cities, you don't know the Quad Cities. And Moline, Bettendorf, Rock Island, and Davenport. And he is from Davenport, Iowa. And I remember, who else is from Davenport, Iowa? Chuck Long. No, he was from Wheaton, Illinois. I got it.
Roger Craig, the former running back for the MVP, I think, of the Super Bowl for the 49ers, was from my high school, guys.
Wow.
In a high school football game against Cedar Rapids, Washington, Roger Craig rushed for like 373 yards on less than 20 carries, John. It was phenomenal.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, Roger Craig, he had that high running style. Remember, he would get his
high knees,
size.
baby.
Yeah. High knees. Oh my God, he's one of the greatest.
And he could catch the ball out of the backfield. He was one of the first 1,000 guys with the running back, right? Receiving and rushing.
God, yeah. He was so good, and I tell you, Irving Fryer was on that Nebraska team.
The only mistake he made was playing for
Gill.
Let's be honest. That's the only
mistake. If I'm not mistaken, Irving Fryer was from Camden, New Jersey.
Could have been.
The home of Milt Wagner, who played at Louisville. And and of course, Darrell Griffith, Dr. Duncanstein. And, when one time, think about this, John Hartwell, and you both of y'all basketball guys, that was what you played. That was your star sport. Nothing gets better than Joe Dean and Tom Hammond doing an SEC game of the week. And they
string
music from downtown Lexington, KY. And then they would say, Stufferino. Oh, I love it, man. I'm a little bit fired up. I'm into my first cup of coffee over here at the Cross County at the Lodge. About to head up and go do some trout fishing on the Spring River in Rockbridge. Going to have a lot of fun. Got 11 long-haired friends of Jesus heading north doing about 95 in a chartreuse microbus. We are going to have a lot of fun.
Wow.
Let's get started, man. John and Matt, both of y'all know this time of year, you got practice underway. The students are coming back. You've got, Matt, you've got, 512 student athletes out of 1,936 students at Rhodes, which is 27.3% of the student body, or 20. That's incredible. At ULM, you got about 385 student athletes coming back.
Yep.
John, let's get started. What are you doing now with all this free time you have?
Yeah, a lot of free time. No, we've got obviously football, soccer, volleyball, cross country are all full speed ahead right now. Practicing, actually, soccer's even played an exhibition game, beat McNeese State 2-0 earlier this week. But and students coming back to campus, we've got class starting Monday. So, I told a donor group the other night, this is the best time of the year for an athletic director because every team is undefeated.
Yep.
And every student has a 4.0 for the academic year. Let's just keep it that way. But a lot of anticipation in the air, hot air, that is. We've had a virtual cold front here in Monroe the last 2 days. It's been below 100. Who'd have ever thought that a 93-degree day with 90% humidity would feel like fall, but compared to what we've had, it is. But again, a lot of excitement in the air, and we kick off in 16 days with the men from West Point coming here, and we're excited about what's going on.
Well, in terms of preparation, you came in last spring and took over as AD. You are working, I would imagine, every day of the week. This is not a 8:15, 8:30, 4:35. If there's one thing I cannot stand among people that I work with are clock watchers.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up going to the office with my dad on Saturdays as a kid. And about 11:30 or 12, we'd leave and go over to the club for lunch or go to Alex's fruit stand down on Front Street or South Main in Memphis. And then in the afternoon, we did whatever. But my dad's an architect and an artist. He's 95. He's like, you better love what you do and do what you love. It just like this job in my financial advisory practice, it doesn't seem like work. Is that what it's like for both of y'all? Matt, you were an athlete, you've been a coach, you've been AD, now you're associate AD. And John, you ought to watch in the cafeteria there in the Bryan Hall at Rhodes. You're sitting with Matt. Everybody comes by to see. It's like eating lunch on Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills with Merv Griffin in the day. Who loves you, baby? Tell them Telly sent you. Who loves you, Matt?
Well, part of it is, Rob, they know I always eat well. So they want to get an idea of how the food is before they go in line, right?
Okay.
That's part of the deal. But getting
I
back
was
to your
fasting
point,
that day, by the way. It was
I know
torture.
you were. I had a great burger. And but getting back to your point, I mean, John doesn't have a day off. I mean, even when he's at Thanksgiving dinner with his family, he knows that there could be a call from a coach about something that went down with a student athlete in a program, and he's got to respond. I mean, he's the liaison of the events to make sure that everything goes well, from game day prep to dinner conversations to congratulations, hopefully after a great victory, and not just one sport, a lot of sports. So mad props. This time of year, it's just crazy too, because as you mentioned to John, you know, I'm the liaison for Res Life and also for housing and also for our dining quarters. So for early arrivals, man, yesterday was a big day because we had football reporting last week, but we had the rest of our group come in yesterday. And like, I'll even add to the listening, you know, golf is playing so much earlier in the fall now. So our golf team plays on Labor Day weekend, so they could actually technically come in yesterday, which they did, you know, and it's like, we have now on campus, and we don't even start classes the next week. We have 270 of our 500 plus student athletes that are on campus for preseason. So it is a really ramped up time of the year.
Yeah, and speaking of props back to Matt there, because when you're the liaison to housing, oh my gosh, it's everything from my commode doesn't flush to there's brown water coming out of the sink. Those two are not related there though, but there's a lot behind the scenes that go on in the world of athletics that have really nothing to do with the ball being hit or kicked or thrown or anything else that takes up time, and somebody's got to be responsible and somebody's got to be the point person for it.
Yeah, I was having a great conversation with one of my smartest football and sports friends, and he's the fan of another school, Alabama, and I'm Auburn, but we've been friends for a long time. But he said, you know, you and I both, people always say, how can y'all be friends? We appreciate and love the game. And y'all get to see the journey of somebody from the moment they come in as a freshman and start and navigate the next 4 or 5 years, hopefully at the same school. And I'm telling you, it's awful easy to get caught up in all the negativity out there. You turn on the idiot box and it's coming at you nonstop, 24/7. And everybody can get on the text or Twitter or social media and say something sarcastic like, oh, yeah, right, like they know. You know, we always know who's the best quarterback on the football team? It's the backup. But I'll tell you what I see happening in college athletics. This is how we're going to save it. It starts with the adults and not allowing 17 and 18-year-olds to write the narrative and to push the narrative. John, when you're talking to people, your coaches, you've got 17 different coaches under your command and that come to you with needs, men's and women's sports. Doesn't it start with the tempo that the coaches and the assistants set? You create a culture, like Sam Pittman said. You know, I tell every kid, I don't want you going in the portal. I didn't bring you here to run you off. Doesn't it start like that?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, again, it's about attitude. It starts with attitude, and you know, anybody can waste time and effort and energy talking about what you don't have. Talk about what you do have. Talk about what the opportunities are. Talk about those types of things, and I think it's really important that is the grassroots of culture, I believe, and it's got to be not only communicated verbally from coaches or athletic directors to coaches and student athletes, but kids are very perceptive. If you're talking the talk but you're not walking the walk, they're going to call BS really quickly, and kids understand that. It's got to be an all-in buy-in from everybody in the organization. And that's what creates special chemistry. Now, there are tangible things that have to go along with that, but, you know, attitude and belief in the opportunity to have success those to me are really the grassroots. And you, again, that's why you've got to have coaches synchronized with your athletic director and with administration, so that coaches can then convey that and synchronize that with your student athletes. And again, you're in today's society, you're not going to please everyone. Everyone is not going to conform to that.
Yeah.
And you know, it's really important that you can identify those that aren't going to buy in or won't buy in, and move on from those, because again, everybody says they want to win, and you know, nobody's playing a game. This isn't you know, third grade. Everybody plays 2 quarters. We're not going to keep score because, gosh forbid, if somebody wins and loses. This is legit here. Everybody wants to win, so you've got to do everything you can to create an edge to be able to win.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw an idea out for you, and I want Matt, you to start first. If I'm the athletic director of a school, what I'm going to do is build relationships with all the business leaders in the town where we are, and I'm going to reach out to our alumni network, business owners and corporate leaders and all. And I mean by leadership, putting your employees first, getting excited about. I'm going to tell you something. Chad House, ECS House Industries, one of our sponsors. I love this guy. Rhodes College grad, Sigma Nu, played football there. Incredible. Runs a family business that's, golly, 78, 79 years old. And he lost both of his parents within a month of one another and went out on the road, and he's kept it going, and they have an incredible business. Last year, Audrey pulls up Christmas Eve, Chad House. This is my favorite day of the year. I'm getting to write bonus checks to my employees. That's the kind of employee. So I'm going to go out and get all the Chad houses I can get, and, you know, people like that. And I'm going to get them together and address my student athletes in all 17 sports, John, and all 24 or whatever you have at Rhodes. I'm going to get them to address them and say, look, y'all are about to start on a big time journey. I'm going to get everybody, all the student athletes, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, 28-year-olds, whatever, because of the virus. We got some 30-year-olds probably. I'm going to say, I want y'all to think about something. Maybe 1 or 2% of y'all are going to go pro in the sports you play. Most of y'all are going to be needing a job. You can make a living with your hands, but you can make millions with your mind. Hit the damn books. And I want y'all to know and start networking them financial literacy about, hey, man, when you think about leaving, if you go somewhere else, grass is greener on the other side. It's still got to be cut. It's still got to be fertilized. And where you are now is where you will be there too. So think about that. Start building, networking about job opportunities and all. Am I wasting time, or is that worth something?
You're exactly right. I'll give you the example. My last football hire, who you met in the cafeteria that day, Rich Duncan.
Yes.
And Rich had taken a prior program to the NCAA playoffs, left that job, went to Berry College in Georgia as the OC for 9 years. They won 5 championships in a row. We're coming off COVID and a shortened season. 2 years in a row, we were 1-13 total. Our program was at the lowest it's ever been. So the first thing that I talked to Rich about, quite honestly, in winning was winning the alumni back. And so what we did is we talked about, Rich, after year 1 and year 2, if we can show some success on the field, let's set up these satellite alumni visits. Let's go to Nashville. Got 20 people there. They're going to be housed by an alum. They're going to bring their former teammates in. You're going to talk to them with our athletic liaison for fundraising. Let's go to Atlanta. Let's go to New Orleans. He went to Dallas. We did one in Memphis. I was at the one in Memphis because I knew a lot of the former players from my time in the 90s working in sports information. So now we've built up that community that are excited. He's getting people to come back as guest coaches. What does that mean? You come back this weekend, Rob, for our first football game. You're going to get a chance to talk to the team at practice Friday night. You're going to be in there in post game. Your family can watch practice. I mean, there's just things like that. I think engagement with the past, history matters. Yeah. History matters. And if you have had a disconnect with your history, because a lot of things happen in programs. I mean, John's infusing life back to ULM athletics.
Yeah.
It necessarily doesn't happen on the field right away, but that conduit is the past, and usually it's the alumni.
Yeah. And Matt, God, I love what you just said. And I met Coach Duncan over there. And I'm gonna tell you one thing. He looks like the football coach, that you'd see in The Longest Yard. He's just a badass. You can tell.
Hey, Rich and I are going to win the buffet line. I promise you that.
You don't want to get sideways with that guy. I mean, I am Gunnery Sergeant Hartman. You will have fun. You will love this. I got your name. I got your number. The first and last word out of your filthy sewer will be, sir. Here at the Citadel, we don't let you sleep in. I'm sure they welcomed you. When your parents were there with you, we're looking forward to having John. He's going to study engineering and calculus and accounting. Thank you so much. And as soon as they drive off, all right, Hartwell, you're 6'7". I don't care. But I'll tell you what I love is it's so important. If you don't spend time with your second and third team guys, you have no future. So John talked about what I said about getting all those people together and making those people go, you know what? God bless, man. I've been here in Monroe for 3 years. I went duck hunting with Phil Robertson. I met Uncle Si. Man, I'm an ag econ major, and there's a 10,000 acre rice farm out here. Rice is at $14 a bushel. These people have offered me a job if I graduate from ULM. That's part of the deal.
Yeah, I mean, those are the really important things. And I'll give you a quick example. Last Friday night, we had it's called The Pursuit, kind of our kickoff event. Yeah. Had about 500 people here talking about, the upcoming athletics year, again, the anticipation with what's going on. So our featured alumni speaker is a guy named Jesse Blair. Came here to play football from East Texas, from Athens, Texas. Yeah. Got hurt his second year, played 2.5 years, or 2 years, but he graduated in business in 2.5 years. Spent another year as a GA because he had hurt his neck, got his MBA in a year. And the guy's 37 years old now, and he is managing over $5 billion with a B dollars worth of hotels around the country. Wow. And he's in the business of buying, selling, and managing hotels. And I mean, his story is incredible. So here's a guy that, was not necessarily a superstar on the field, but he took advantage of his opportunity at an education at ULM. His dad was a electrician. So he, has parlayed that into a highly successful career. And he's only 37 years old. And he talked about the impact that ULM had on his life and how it's changed the trajectory, not just for him, but, for his kids and everybody else in his family. And that's why you do what you do. I mean, the wins are great, championships are great, all of those things. But when you hear down the line the impact and the life-changing, influence that the opportunities presented by athletics had for these young men and women who compete, that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, and we appreciate so much both of y'all because you're visionaries, you're planners. You're both CPA, mechanical engineer types. And I tell you one thing I've noticed among my friends that played college sports, in any sport, their greatest memories are not of the games. They're of the road trips, the winter workouts, the spring practices. And I love that January 2nd, 1984, in New Orleans at the Sugar Bowl when Auburn beat Michigan 9-7. I love it when Coach Dye said, he goes, you're going to be in a lot of battles in life, one-on-one. You ain't going to have your teammates and your coaches and your mamas and daddies around. You're going to look back on that January night in New Orleans and remember that you did what you had to do. You hung in there and you fought. That's what we love about sports. And I know my brother-in-law played football at Virginia Tech. I went up there with him about 9 years after he graduated. One Sunday afternoon, we were killing time before my sister had her first baby up in Roanoke. So we went over there, walked into the athletic complex on a Sunday afternoon. And I'm like, thinking, and they go, Law, what's going on, Rich Creek? Because he was from Rich Creek, Virginia. His parents, good old tough mountain people, sent 5 kids. They all graduated from Blacksburg. And they didn't talk about a single game. They didn't talk about anything. They talked about everything but sports. And Matt, I met Jeff Cleanthes, the baseball coach over there. This guy is unreal. Not only is he a hell of a coach, he loves baseball. He's from Brooklyn, New York. It's like when we have Chris Domino on here from 680 The Fan in Atlanta. You get these guys, these coaches that love baseball. They love football. They love whatever. As an AD, both of y'all, Matt, that's who you want to hire, isn't it? Not just some, bean counter that doesn't relate to people. It won't work.
Well, he's also probably our best fundraiser in the school. He's raised over $2.5 million on facilities. Since Jeff's come here, we've improved our stadium. We have a hitting facility now. We have an improved, enhanced locker room experience in both dugouts. Heck, we just added heat to our dugouts this spring. So in March, in those 42-degree days, our guys are over in the dugouts that are heated, while our visitors are over there shaking as they get, they get that inside fastball that they just kind of break their hands off it. So, and how do you raise money at our level? Is relationships, guys. It's what John does every day. It's relationships. And if you can have a coach that has that gift, it just really helps your whole department.
Yeah. John, I know you said stay with us if you can, but if you got to go. But it's awesome to have you on here because you are a positive person. I don't have time for negativity. I can't stand negative people. I'm just a realist. Man, I'm in sales. If you're a realist, you're going to say, well, with caller ID, there's no way I can prospect.
No doubt. No doubt. Hey, well, Rob, when I joined on, y'all were talking about Milli Vanilli and lip syncing. I'd have to say I've got to bring that full circle to lead because I know you're going, drifting the river this weekend fishing, and that sounds like a ton of fun. It's important in our business, as Matt knows this as well. Every once in a while, you got to come up for air. Well, I'm going to come up for my last breath of air before we launch into the season this week. Actually, going to see my son and his wife in Boston this week, but combining a sports venue and some music, going to see the Zach Browne band in Fenway Park Saturday night. So I'm pretty jacked about that.
God, man.
little chicken fried in Fenway. So.
Well, you sent me a couple of weeks ago. He was sending me from Wrigley Field. Hams used to be the official beer, but now it's old style. It's fully Croizon, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So John, I was.
Hey guys, I got to run, but appreciate it.
Tell them how they can follow you.
Yes. ULMWarhawks.com. Follow everything to do with Warhawk Athletics and John _ Hartwell on Twitter. And, we're a little over 2 weeks away from cranking up Sunbelt football. Hopefully next Thursday we can talk some Sunbelt football because it's going to be really good this year.
Let's do it. Look, I'm telling you, it's pushing. It's pushing to be in that Power 5. It really is that good. And we will talk about it. Hey, when you're on here, you and Matt, feel free to walk about the cabin. The unfasten your seatbelt signs are always on. Thanks, John, for being with us. Have a great trip.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
You bet. You bet. All right, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do here. We're going to do this. We're going to take a commercial break. We're going to come right back with Matt Dean. Got a lot to cover with him. But let me say this again. One of our sponsors, we're so blessed to have great sponsors, great listeners, great folks like Gateway Tire and Service Centers. They go the distance for their customers and the communities where they are. Check out Gateway Tires on our website at sidelines.live. Support the Boy Scouts of America. I'm going to tell you one thing, man. We want great leaders, great men in this country. Get involved with the Boy Scouts. I was in the Scouts for 4.5 years. We drove our Scoutmaster to a near nervous breakdown, but we went camping 12 months a year, probably twice a month, and learned a lot. Learned how to cook, learned how to burn hash browns, did a lot of fun stuff. But support the Boy Scouts and reforest Mississippi. Wherever you are, get involved, get outdoors. The hook and bullet crowd, without the hook and bullet crowd, I'm talking about deer hunters, duck hunters, fishermen. There ain't no environment. There ain't no money for it. So remember that. So, and also rumbleboxinggym.com, open every day of the week, 1835 Union Avenue, Midtown Memphis, across from the Walgreens, Union and McLean on the corner. Plenty of parking there. The classes are open every day of the week, rumbleboxinggym.com. You're going in there, you're doing star jacks, burpees, planks, push-ups, dips, dumbbell work, lots of accelerated work, a lot of plyometric work. Then you hit those punching bags. You're going nonstop. Just the only break is between stations, 45 minutes straight. That's the length of a prize fight, folks. Get involved, rumbleboxinggym.com. We're going to do this. We're going to take a break and then come right back after the break and talk some more college football and college basketball with Coach Matt Dean.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you with Matt Dean in front of the great Crystal Cabinet there in Germantown. Been talking a lot. John Hartwell, AD at ULM, was on with us. What a fun road trip that's going to be. Hell of a bus ride, but I guess he's flying from Monroe to Boston, Fenway Park, Zach Brown Band, the Boston Red Sox, clam chowder. He's going to have a lot of fun. Drinking some cold road sodas up there. Doubt they serve hams. They're not sophisticated enough up there. Doubt they serve hams at Fenway Park. But I'll tell you one thing. I'll have me a 30 rack of hams on the Spring River this weekend. Ice cold. You can't beat it. $15.98 for a 30 rack. Hams, it's the beer you've been looking for. Absolutely, it is. It's the best, the finest Pilsner. Matt, look, got SEC and the Big Ten are getting so powerful. The Big Ten, will they ever change that name? Or it's just too valuable. It's too recognizable, even if they have 18 or 20 teams. And do you see like a Pacific division of the Big Ten for all those West Coast teams just to try to break up travel and create pods? Your thoughts and comments, Coach. I'll hang up and go Hawkeyes.
You know, it's funny, Rob, because I think Chip Kelly last week said they asked him about the Big Ten. He goes, "Oh, you mean the Big 18?" So I think it's already floating out there. You know, I would not be shocked if somehow they got two more to go 20. And then you would have a Big Ten West and a Big Ten East. So you got your Big Ten times two, right? And the league is iconic. It's like, you know, they're not going to change the name. You know, the great thing about the Big Ten right now, I think, is they feel like after Ohio State's performance last year against Georgia in a game we all know that Ohio State led for most of the game. Marvin Harrison Jr. gets hurt, who may be the number one pick in the draft this upcoming year, and they missed the field goal. I think it was, 43-44, maybe I'm wrong, that could have won the game. Ohio State wins that game, they win the national championship. So, and Michigan went into Columbus last year and clocked them. So you really have right now in the Big Ten, you got Michigan, Ohio State, who are going to be perennial playoff contenders. I've already told you my thoughts on Penn State this year. I think they're a really good football team. Now you're adding Lincoln Riley and his offense in USC, regardless of who's the quarterback out that, in the next few years, Lincoln Riley's going to recruit well. He's going to have someone running his offense like he did at Oklahoma. I don't know how that plays out in the Big Ten because still defense matters. And I think you see that like when Lincoln Riley's teams would play an SEC team that was really good on both sides of the ball, they kind of got humbled, right? I look back, I'm thinking out loud here, but I remember Georgia, Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl in the semis when Roquan Smith was a senior, I think, or junior, whatever, and they took care of business. But I'm just telling you, it's real intriguing. So another thing that happened in the last couple of days, I was going to shoot you this text, but Oregon is spending money on Bo Nix Heisman campaign. They have a huge billboard of Bo Nix on the side of an apartment building in Manhattan, New York. They did this for Joey Harrington two decades ago.
Yes,
and they're getting ready to put the same type of billboard up in Dallas, and they're going all in and promoting their guy. I love it. We know he's a dark horse, but you can't argue. I mean, I think he had 29 touchdowns, 7 picks last year, maybe it was, and he ran for a lot of yards and touchdowns. So this year of college football, because Georgia lost a lot of key players, we still probably pick them. I would guess you and I would both think they're going to win the East, right? I think that's probably what we're going to say whenever we have a preseason prediction if we do that. But I don't think we're convinced they're going to win the SEC title game this year. I don't think we're 100% convinced that's going to happen. There's a lot that has to play out. I mean, I still like Alabama. I still love Alabama. I know we don't know who their starting quarterback is. I think Saban loves this. He's got a competition every day, but Saban knows his line of scrimmage is really good on both sides of the ball. And he's going to go back to a little, pound, play, pass, good defense, special teams. I think Alabama is going to win the West. We'll have a rematch of Alabama-Georgia from 2 years ago. I look at Alabama winning the SEC playoff and going to the college football playoff this year. That's my prediction number one.
Yeah, and Gary Harris was on the segment right before you joined us from Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa, and it's looking a lot like Jalen Milroe will be the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
We know that Tyler Buckner coming from Notre Dame, and then his offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees, is there with him. But that's not enough. He's a good quarterback, but Milroe's been there longer. It's about familiarity with the system. It looks like the Michigan State transfer from one of the great towns, the home of Brock Kreitz, one of our friends on the show, my friend, former linebacker for Ole Miss, 93 to 97, from Naperville, Illinois. Yeah. Home of the great word, the term for a cold beer, a road soda. I love it. Yeah, but Peyton Thorne's from Naperville, Illinois. And I think it's been reported, but I felt all along he'd be the starting quarterback. I'm not saying that I'm jumping out on a limb. Most people felt like that'd be the case, but
they did.
It's pretty obvious that the coaches are smart to not name a starter in the spring. And wait until school starts before you do it, because I'm being completely transparent. Don't give them such an easy opportunity to transfer. It's hard to transfer, but also, if the adults don't start cracking the whip and laying the law down and saying, look, man, you're 19 years old. You're not going to tell me what to do. You don't make the rules. You're going to have to work your way up. Respect is given, respect is earned. But it's got to be earned before it's given. Matt.
Quarterback. Rob, it's interesting with the quarterback position. You hit it on the head. I think these days, as a coach, you need a security blanket. You need 2 or 3 really good guys in that room. So I think I heard Coach Freeze say the other day, and you correct me if I'm wrong. I was listening to some highlights from a press conference. I think regardless of what happens, don't you think Ashford will have a lot of packages in certain situations in the game, right?
Yes.
Whether or not he's a starter or not. And you don't bring Thorne in as late as they did if you were completely sold on Ashford in the first place, right?
Correct.
You wanted to create more competition in that quarterback room, which he's done. I think Auburn is one of the most intriguing teams in college football, and I'll tell you why. I know you've told me time after Mr. Potato Man, he didn't recruit. There's still a ton of talent on that roster from last couple of years at Gus. I know some of those guys are gone to what Hugh did late in the process last year. And just think in 2 years, Rob, he's going to stack back-to-back classes. In 2 years from now, we can be talking on the show about them, the favorite to win the West. I mean, I'm just telling you. I mean, it's not going to take that long because one thing you can say about Coach is he can recruit, and he knows the Southeastern Conference and the land and the territory and the high schools. So getting back to your point, you have to engage all three of those guys in the room, and you can't play your cards almost to the last minute because you don't want some of them saying, hey, there's a hole over here and such, I can get reps and I can get tape. I need to go transfer. I mean, you're right, Rob. That's the world we live in right now.
It is. And looking back, the last recruiting class, Harson's first class, the one in that, December of 20, when he was hired Christmas Eve, he missed that one. So what he got in February, and as bad as things were, I think they still were in the top 20 in recruiting. Auburn's going to do that.
Even as bad as he was, he still got players.
Yeah, he got a few, but of that class, the February of 21 class, only one player from that class is still on the team. And Garner Langlow checked out yesterday, an offensive lineman from Orlando, but Cowboy, Jarquez Hunter, and he was skating on thin ice there for a while. I don't know what's going to happen, but he's from Philadelphia, Mississippi, Neshoba County, the same hometown of another great one, maybe one of the greatest of all time, Marcus Dupree.
That's what I thought you were going to say. Marcus Dupree. What a tremendous football.
Hopefully going to have him on the show here very soon. Working on
You have a relationship with Marcus Dupree.
I've got someone that said, do you want him on the show last night? And I said, is the Pope Catholic? Yes. Yes, I do. And I tell you what we got to be thinking about is when you look at the college football, what is happening, it is, and I think that you've got to have these guys convinced to stay a little bit longer. If you can't convince them to stay, they're going to go somewhere else and run into the same damn problems. It doesn't matter. I mean, I think, and that's why you've got to, from the moment you bring these kids in, you've got to continue to work on player retention. I mean, any good organization, you know what? If you're too cheap to pay your employees, don't be surprised and act shocked when they leave you.
Correct.
Rule number one, God, you talk to anyone who's ever served in the military. My dad was in the Army. Most of us have family members, parents, whatever, and they'll tell you this. When you are an officer, rule number one, take care of your men first.
Yeah.
Always. If you're out on maneuvers and it's pouring rain and you're in a comfortable tent with heat or air conditioning, eating a steak, and they're eating, worms and just grub worm. I mean, and they're sleeping on the ground and they're miserable. Look, that's part of being tough, but take care of them. Get them supplies. That's what you got to do as a coach, as an AD. Your time should be spent going to every one of your coaches and going, what can I do to help you? And that's just the most important thing that I see. And again, you see it when I'm around you, Matt, at Rhodes. Again, God, that cafeteria in Browne Hall, that burger that Jeff Cleanthes was eating and those French fried potatoes, oh, man, that looked good. But I will say, we can solve the problem. I think the reason a lot of kids transfer, Matt, is because the coaches don't spend enough time with them. They don't get to know each other. Once you start building relationships, it's harder. The more vested you are in a program, the harder it is to leave it. Lane Kiffin said at SEC Media Days on Marty and McGee when they pulled him in the side, he said, look, people like what I say because they can't say it, but they know I'll say it about the portal, about NIL. He said, college differences in the pros, it's a paycheck. Okay. In college, you're around a bunch of guys that have been there 4 or 5 years that really want to be there. We can get that back if the adults would take control of the narrative. And it'll happen. I see it happening already. Kids are starting to realize, man, the portal isn't anything. Zebras don't change their stripes, just their watering holes.
Rob, football coach, our listeners don't want to hear this because football coaches are paid, especially at the SEC level and Power 5, really well.
Yes.
But when you have 85 scholarships, what do you think on average? 15 walk-ons, let's say a roster of 100, right? Basically, yes. With everything, fair to say. Good. Let's just use that as a template. To do what you just described and build those relationships, that means you have to have one-on-one time, not just one little conversation.
Yeah.
Multiple times, multiple days, multiple weeks, to try to make sure there's a reassurance of a young man. First of all, you're talking about, from a coaching perspective, what I call the acclimation process. Rob, I just recruited you. I know you're a 4-star, borderline 5-star, but you have to earn the right to get on the field and be a starter in my program. Well, coach, you didn't kind of say that when you recruited me. And so you got to be very transparent when you recruit people. I think this is where Saban is just better than everybody, and I think Kirby is too. They are so honest and like, Rob, I'm not giving you anything. You're going to come in here this 5-star. You're going to earn everything you got. And then because this has been successful, it repeats itself. It repeats itself. It repeats itself. Then the people that leave the program in Alabama, it's not so much that they're disgruntled at Saban. It's they get there and they realize, hey, there's 2 dudes better at me at this position. I'm not going to get on the field. I got to go somewhere where I can play, I can get videotape, I can get in the league, and I can support my family. Because I'm a football player. I may not be a mechanical engineer. Okay? So football coaches are paid well for that reason. You talk about the nonstop of John Hartwell's day. Right now, I'm watching our football team in camp, and we're at, day 9, day 10. And those coaches have invested so much in these young men.
Yeah.
It is a brotherhood. It is a camaraderie. Yeah. It is a night and day experience. And if your locker room is not truly solvent, you got no chance to win. And that's where I think the Kirby Smarts and the Nick Sabans. I mean, Kirby learned a lot from Nick, even though Kirby was a heck of a player. He was a heck of an assistant coach. He was a heck of a defensive coordinator. He's a hell of a head coach, right? But everybody that wins usually has a mentor. And basically I tell somebody, like if Rob, you were going to be a head coach tomorrow and you've been an assistant coach at 3 different places, you're going to probably take a piece of everybody you've worked for in your plan. But then you're going to add to that what you truly believe that you may not have been able to incorporate as a coordinator, right? You're the head coach now. You're going to do whatever you want to do, but you're going to take a piece. And I think Kirby, man, he's done that really well. He's utilized what he got from Saban, and he's included his core beliefs. And right now, I can tell you right now, I mean, Georgia's got a shot at number 3. Now, do I believe they're going to win the SEC championship game? Maybe not right now, but hell, if they go undefeated, they may still have a ticket to the playoffs regardless. We don't know.
Right.
So I just think what you talked about, it comes down to relationships. Some people are better at them than others. Just like you have a great rapport with your clients and you have a great portfolio. You got people in your industry that do better than you and do worse. But the reality of the situation is there's a lot more that do worse than better than you. So you've done that because of your relationships, and there's a trust factor. And if you say something to a kid and they get there and it's completely different, you're going to lose that kid. Because of what we've created. There's options. It's like free agency. It's just different, Rob. And you better on the front end be so transparent that nothing should shock a kid once they come to your camp.
Yeah. Well, it's like you meet with clients. The first thing you do are prospects.
Right.
As you talk about, here are the expenses, here are the costs, here's the good, here's the bad, here's the ugly, and everything in between. You don't just mention that as they're walking out and not listening.
That's right.
Okay. You have to do it. Same in recruiting, people appreciate you being honest. There are some times somebody wants to invest and want to buy something. You've got to say, no, that's not a good fit for you.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's what I do, you know, and I know you leave, you know, business on the table, but I'm going to do what's right. And that's what you got to do as a coach. And that's where, to me, you look at the few people that leave Alabama, the few people that leave Georgia, because they knew what they were signing up for. I mean, you know, it's like someone that joins the Marine Corps and gets pissed off when they get deployed to combat.
Yeah.
What do you think you joined the Marine Corps for? You know,
Right.
They're not going door to door handing out soap and flowers and deodorant. They're going over there to conquer and kick ass. That's what they do. And my brother-in-law, 26 years, Kurt Ham in the Marine Corps, said the other night, I never got anything free from the federal government that I didn't pay for later. Great quote, Kurt Ham up in Clarksville. But I'll tell you, it's not that complicated, but you've got to invest in your employees.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing worse than someone who's got a ton of money, never worked for it, and is cheap with their employees. They know the cost of everything and the value of nothing. And if you're a coach, if you're a head coach, you look at you look at, you know, John Brady. I remember John Brady, he took LSU to the Final Four. He's been a head coach all over. I said, John, what'd you start out making as a coach? He laughed and he said, I'm kind of embarrassed, but I'm proud because I started out my first 3 years making $15,000 a year.
Yeah.
It's like I know guys that are very successful as financial advisors, been doing this a long time. And they said, man, back in the mid 70s when the market went down 73, 74, 47% over 2 years, said, man, my paychecks were so small. I was so ashamed. I was going to the liquor store to cash my checks. I mean, you know, but you know what? The most interesting people you will ever meet are the people that failed and got back up, kept fighting, failed, got back up, keep on keeping on and keep on fighting. What did Eddie Robinson? Great. Eddie Robinson III was on with us a few weeks ago. And Eddie's listening right now over in Atlanta. He loves this show, and I love him, and he was on the show. He's just like his grandfather. But Eddie Robinson used to say, football teaches the lessons of life. You get knocked down, you get back up. You keep getting back up when you get knocked down. But when you quit getting back up, you're done. So you got to keep fighting. That's the message. And I think it's so easy to turn on the TV nowadays and get caught up in all the negativity and group stupidity, group think, without even asking questions. You know, what did Sherlock Holmes' assistant, Dr. Watson, say? There's nothing more deceptive in life than an obvious clue. In the business world, we call it low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. You know, Rob, part of the reason I was enamored about becoming a coach is just I was always curious at the leadership required to put together a winning product. And you know, you find out when you get involved in what I've done the last 33 years, it's not much different from what you do. It's building a team.
Similar. Yeah.
It's building a team. It's creating a culture that's all centered around trust and transparency.
Yeah.
Right. And when do coaches get in trouble?
When they lie.
When they lie. Players don't believe you anymore. You're not transparent. Now, another thing I believe in that I learned from my father a long time ago, who was a spot welder, God rest his soul, for International Harvester for 32 years, is hard work.
Yeah.
You know, you reap what you sow, right? You know, I was intrigued by, you know, you talked to me off air a few weeks ago about what some of these sweet potato farmers were making.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, I was in the wrong industry because I was built to be a sweet potato. I mean, maybe I couldn't work that hard, but my God, I need to do some of this stuff. There's not.
Yeah.
What was the numbers on the acreage in the country that raised sweet potatoes? It was just astounding, right?
I think it's only 152,000 acres of sweet potato. 13 sweet potato farmers in America.
You know, I grew up in a state when you drive on the interstate, all I see is cornfields, right? And I'm like, a lot of competition for corn, but man, maybe I missed the boat. Maybe it was sweet potatoes. And I think to end this conversation for me, the biggest reward I get is player development. If I bring in a kid that doesn't play a minute for 2 years, but sticks with me, believes in me, becomes a starter, becomes an integral part of a successful team, and maybe become an all-conference player, dude, and then graduates, I can't tell you how many doctors and lawyers I have out there, Rob. I've lost count.
Yeah.
And it just warms my heart. I can sit here, if I left this college tomorrow, I can reflect on what my players have done after Rhodes, and that really is what it's truly about for me as an educator.
Yeah. What makes relationships worth a damn are the people that you go through the toughest of times with.
Yeah.
Those are the ones you're the closest with. Look, we often hear people using and drawing parallels of combat with games. We don't do that. Shug Jordan, legendary, winningest football coach in Auburn history, fought in North Africa against Rommel, wanted some more fun, went to Sicily.
Wow.
Landed at Omaha Beach, Utah Beach, in Normandy, 6 June 1944. Got hit in the shoulder with a frag of a German 88 millimeter. And 4 days later, he waited 4 days to go to a field hospital to get help. And the doctor said, why did you wait so long? And he said, well, sir, I'm a combat engineer, and I had a job to do to get that road built, get those boys off the beach so we can win this damn war. And if that wasn't enough, Shug Jordan goes to Seattle, Tacoma, Fort Lewis to decommission his unit at the end of World War II. He thought they asked for volunteers to go to the South Pacific. And Shug Jordan said, I'll go. Well, they sent him to Okinawa. You know what? In his 25-year career of coaching at Auburn, his players said he never, ever evoked anything about that. Those were very dark, I'm sure, tough memories. His son is a friend of mine, Ralph Jordan Jr. Incredible. God, he's awesome. But those kinds of people, like you talk about your dad, my dad, they're just badasses. I mean, boy, we didn't have air conditioning growing up. Hell, we didn't get a TV, color TV, till your mama and I got married. And I said, really? He goes, man, y'all got it so good. The bottom line is this: your coaches that put a foot up your ass and do not let you quit and push you harder than you ever have in your life. Your brother Joels of the world. When the air conditioning was out that time in summer school, I raised my hand and said it was hot in there. And Brother Joel looked at me, the crucifix above him in the classroom, and said, Mr. Browne, it is better to suffer. May we continue with the lesson? I went, yes, sir. And he goes,
you can't answer
thank you, Mr.
You can't say to that.
No, and he goes, thank you, Mr. Browne. And there's Brother Joel every morning at 6:15 Mass at St. Louis Catholic Church with his list of people he's praying for. You cannot find better people than that. And you can surely say this: he did not do it for the money. He did it for the love of the people, because that's the mission of the LaSallian brothers. All right, let me close out by saying, because I mean it, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. It's easy to get caught up in all the day-to-day negativity. Don't do it. A kind word or two goes a long way. Somebody's struggling, just you recognizing them, saying hello, shaking their hand can change their life immeasurably. So don't ever forget that. Matt Dean, again, tell people how they can follow you. Great show, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow. Got a whole lot to talk about, but man, it gets more fun every day. This ain't work. This is a passion. And Matt, thank you, John Hartwell, Dudley Dawson, Gary Harris, and everybody for being on the show. But how do they follow you and reach out to you and support you at Rhodes?
At Dino Hoops 44. I think a long time ago I may have worn that number in some sports team, or maybe it was the age I joined Twitter. I don't know, Rob, but I will tell you, I've been working on some chapter outlines. I'm working on a book, so I'm hopeful in the next year we can have a conversation about learn more about my journey. Which came from a junior in high school that switched from basketball and golf to a manager Division I in college to all-time winningest coach in history of Rhodes College women's basketball. So glad to be on, Rob. Love the show. Love doing the show. And I'll see you next week, brother.
Hey, man, success is a choice. We'll do it. Everybody take care. We are out of here.